If you remember, the last time we met, we've talked about databases, and I've explained to you how a cabinet, a physical cabinet, relates to an electronic database, and how a drawer in a cabinet relates to a table in a database. Okay, and how each files in the drawer relate with each rows in that table. We've used examples of the three-tier architecture and all those things like that. But today we'll just be looking at two major things, different kind of vendors we have for various type of databases, and then we're going to now focus on the structural query language. So at first, I need you to understand that the database service is provided by different vendors, and we have the Microsoft DB database vendor. We have the Microsoft database. We have the Oracle database. We have the Java DB. We have the Sybase. Oracle, as well as some other lightweight databases, which is popularly known as the SQL, just as Microsoft also has its own lightweight database, which is popularly known as the Microsoft Access. You would have noticed this on your computer over there when you go to the Microsoft folder from your start menu and you look at the Microsoft Office folder. There you will see the Microsoft Access on the list. That is a type of database of Microsoft. So now it now depends on you on which vendor do you want to go with. The most popular of all of the vendor is Microsoft and Oracle. Actually, Oracle is the most popular and respected, but in some countries they prefer Microsoft. All right, so you just have to know why you are taking any of these two. So now coming back to this database thing, you know that I said for every cabinet in an office, there is a way you interact with that cabinet. You need to put files in the cabinet. You need to update some information. You need to add some information, and so on and so forth like that. All these things you need to learn how to do it now that it is no longer a physical cabinet but an electronic cabinet that is known as a database. You need to understand how to do it, to perform all these operations electronically, adding records, removing records, destroying records, updating records, and so on like that. So that will take us into learning what we know as the structural query language. Structural query language. Now I need you to have something in mind. Each time we have a title or any English word that we will be using in this course, please have it in mind that the word itself explains what you want to do. For example, in this structured query language, which is popularly known as the SQL, is just a language that is used in querying the structure of a database. Very simple. Just as the languages that you might be multilingual, you might not. In this side of the country, in Nigeria, almost everybody learns at least two languages: the mother language, which is the Yoruba, or the Igbo, or the Hausa, and the English, as the official language. So this language you are learning to is just like one of the languages you have learned. Let's say you just want to learn a new language like the French. Now, if you attend a class where they want to teach you a new language such as the French, there is a way you feel relaxed, thinking that is it not just a language I want to learn? That's exactly the way you need to feel relaxed right now, because actually what you want to learn is just a language also. The only difference is that you use the French language to communicate with a fellow human. That's a human language. But in this case, you are learning this language so that you can communicate with the database server of your computer. So you will be learning those languages and using it in querying the structure of our databases. So when you talk about the SQL, I need you to understand, please, that the SQL is a general language for every databases, whether the Sybase or the Java DB or the Oracle DB or the Microsoft DB. You use the same language, the SQL, to interact with all of it. All right, but each of these vendors also have their own specific, the special commands they add to their own SQL. Microsoft will call its own transact SQL. Oracle will call its own ISQL or SQL plus commands. So these are just the little they added to their home. So once you learned SQL with a database, you should have it in mind that it's the same language you use on other databases. So for example, so you're learning maybe Microsoft database or Oracle DB now, you now get to a place where they said, okay, in this place we are not using the Microsoft SQL that you learned, we are using Oracle. You should let them understand that it's still the same language. All right, you can still work with them even while they are using the Oracle. Okay, so now let's focus on the SQL. Talking about the SQL right now, the commands are grouped into like 4 major categories. All right, we have the DML, we have the DDL, we have the DCL, and we have the transaction control language. All right, the DML is data manipulation language. The DDL is data definition language. The DCL is data control language. The TCL is transaction control language. All those languages are grouped just into 4, but they are still all SQL. Okay, but we have some of those SQL commands, SQL language that manipulate information. So we call them data manipulation language. All right, we have some that defines information. For example, before you could start keeping information in your cabinet, you need a carpenter or whosoever to help you build the cabinet. So the commands, the nailing, the building of that cabinet can be done, all right, using your DDL. You use your DDL to define how information will be stored. How many tables with your database has, what's the name the database will carry, how big is it going to be. Okay, you define all those using the data definition language. So we also have the data control language. That is, the access to data shouldn't be available to everyone. If you want to confirm my statement, if you are a student, you can attempt to do this one day when you get to your school. All right, just walk past your lecturers in their offices and go straight into the cabinet behind them and start checking files there. If they ask you what are you doing, tell them you are looking for your files, and you see how they are going to deal with you. All right, because you don't have access to those cabinets. You need to meet with one of them there to help you get any record you need to get. But let's assume that you submitted an application and you were eventually made maybe an administrator there, files administrator.